Good morning, everybody. My name is Lucia Giovannini, and I wake up every morning with the purpose to empower people through positive change so that they may create better lives for themselves and for all sentient beings that we are so interconnected with. And I'm also a transformational speaker and author of 13 books, including A Whole New Life, which just launched in US bookstores. And in this inspirational New Life series, I will be chatting with inspiring men and women who have discovered how to harness the power of change and create a whole new life that is truly fulfilling and authentic to who they are. And my next guest on the series is Geneen Roth. And Janine's pioneering books were among the first to link compulsive eating and perpetual dieting with deeply personal and spiritual issues that go far beyond food, weight, and body image. And she's now the author of 10 books, and over the past 30 years, she has worked with thousands and thousands of people in her groundbreaking workshops and retreats. So Janine's work reflects on her personal journey, on discovering how to deeply transform our relationship with food instead of being punishing, impatient, and harsh to ourselves. So today, I'm really excited to chat with Janine on her journey to discover a whole new way to relate to food and the larger spiritual effects this had on completely reinventing the way she sees herself and lives her life now. So welcome, Janine, and thank you for being part of this inspirational life series.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
It's really, really a pleasure. So I'm so glad to talk to you today about this topic because as women, I think that food and all the conditioning beliefs that, are around food is such an important topic. And of course, we all know that it's not just food, because food brings about, a whole, a lot of topics around it because it's not just food. And so we will not speak just about food, but it's everything that is connected, to food that is really the base of, then our eating disorders and everything, but is also the base of our strength. And if we are able to use it in that way and to turn our conditioning beliefs around. So, Janine, tell us about your own healing journey, and not just with food, but in general. When you look back, how did you make it to a whole new life, the life you are living now?
I was obsessed with food and my weight, and really hated myself throughout that whole losing and gaining over 1,000 pounds. I was very fat, then anorexic, then fat, then very thin. And the whole cycle was perpetuated by my feeling of not liking myself and feeling like I was damaged and that there was something wrong with me. I wasn't like everybody else. I couldn't do this. I had been on many, many diets. And finally, after I just couldn't, I had been anorexic and then I doubled my weight within 2 months. I gained 80 pounds and I became suicidal at that point and really decided that, well, first of all, to stop dieting. Because no matter how thin I had ever been, it had never made me happy, even though I had been thin many, many times, and of course had been fat many times. But also understanding that there was some way that I was using food and my body to get through to me, and I hadn't been interested in it before. And so I decided to find out what I was trying to say to myself through my relationship with food. And I also decided to stop dieting and stop shaming and depriving myself. And so those two things happened at the same time.
Yeah. And I think that, For those of you who are listening, say yes if you've been through something similar, dieting and then maybe getting, slim, but then again, gaining those weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, trying thousands of different diets, and really not being at ease in your body. Because I think it's a story that at a certain level, all women's, we've gone.
Yes, right.
At a different level, okay? It may be 3 kilos, it may be, I'm talking about kilos because
Yes, I understand that.
but I mean, it can be a certain amount of pounds, it may be 100 pounds, but at a certain level, I think it's female history.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's this constant feeling of trying to fix and change and make our bodies different and or better in order to be accepted or loved and sometimes we tell ourselves in order to feel beautiful.
Exactly.
And so we keep on just pushing ourselves and hating ourselves and judging ourselves and depriving ourselves, and it all happens through the language of food in the body.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it has its root in not just in our personal life, but in our ancestors. Because as women, we were so conditioned, that we needed to have a certain body in order to attract the right man. And in a way, for our ancestors, it made sense because they couldn't survive without a man. I mean, they couldn't even own a house or work or own money. So their only possibility of surviving was actually to be beautiful. And of course, someone else always decided what beautiful meant, because to me, every woman is beautiful. Every human, not just human, every living being is beautiful. But, those rules of society that a woman has to be like that, in a certain way. And for our ancestors, it made sense because in some ways we couldn't survive as women if we didn't depend on a man. And in order to find or to be chosen by the right man, our body had to be as perfect as possible. But of course now it makes no sense because we can survive on our own. So we don't need our body to be specifically, a certain weight or a certain measures. And we are really perfect as we are. So it's really probably deep within our ancient part of the psyche for some reason.
Well, I think the important thing is because there were also matriarchal lineages where women didn't have to be thin, and society.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think what's really important is what happens now. Is
Yes.
what do we do now? How do we treat ourselves now? How do we break out of this now? And I think it's important for all of us to see that food can be a way in. It doesn't need to be dismissed. You don't need to shame and loathe yourself about it, but you can understand that at this point, because as you just said, everything that's happened before now, we express so many of our beliefs, our core beliefs about being alive through our relationship with food in our bodies. For instance, I'm not worthy, I'm damaged, I'm a failure, I'm not enough, I'll never be enough, something's wrong with me. And so if we become interested rather than rejecting of our relationship with food, because how you eat is how you live, and basically how you do anything is how you do everything. And so your relationship with food becomes a fabulous doorway into your deepest feelings about what it's like to be you and what it's like to be alive. And in that way, you can question those and change those.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. That's very, very true. Very true. And because if we don't do it, what happens is that we get, in a way, separated from ourselves or from our true self. You know, if we keep on criticizing ourselves, if we keep on putting ourselves down, it's like rejecting a part of ourselves and not embracing ourselves fully. So I totally agree with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what steps do you have for people wanting to shift their lives in this way, you know, in relationship to food, but of course, not only in this sense, because when we start this journey, it's a whole new journey. It's a journey that, you know, is totally 360 degree.
Yes. So there are a couple of levels to work with. One is on the food level, and on the food level, it's about not shaming and judging and depriving yourself. And I talk a lot about this in my books, about disengaging from what I call the crazy ant in the attic, or the GPS from the Twilight Zone, the person, the voice, the part of you that shames you all the time, so that you can start eating in a way that helps you feel more alive, that helps you thrive. And for everybody, that's going to be a different way of eating. So I have a set of eating guidelines that I talk about eating when you're hungry, eating without distractions, eating what your body, not your mind, really wants, and stopping when
Listening to your body more, is that correct?
Yeah, I really encourage people to really sense their bodies, to feel their legs, to feel their arms, to feel their feet on the floor, to feel their hands, for instance, because if you're feeding something that's already full, it's like pouring water into a glass that is already full. It just keeps spilling out and spilling out and spilling out. And most of us are not actually in touch with what our bodies actually want. And for many of us, food becomes the thing that we can have, even though somehow we believe we can't have other things. So we feel like, well, if I can't have what I really want, I might as well eat more and more food. And so that's the other part, is getting in touch with what you actually want. What are the true hungers of your life? What are the longings of your life? And to start every day by asking yourself, today, in this moment, what's not wrong right now? So that you begin switching your brain from its emphasis on negativity to positivity. It's very, very important to do that.
Yeah.
Very.
That's paramount. I totally agree. That's paramount. Also because we really train our brain circuitry to focus on the positive. And it doesn't mean that we somehow avoid the negative at all costs. It doesn't mean that we are Pollyanna, you know, but it means that we really train ourselves to recognize the positive that is there, because there is positivity in every situation and in every life, even during challenging times.
Well, what happens is, because the brain's default mechanism is on the negative, because that is truly how we've evolved over millions and millions of years.
Yeah. It was a defense.
It's actually realistic. It's not Pollyanna, but it's realistic. It's like having scales that are so outweighed in one direction, in the negative, that the more attention you put on what's not wrong or the positive, it's just equaling them out. It's not actually being Pollyanna or being unrealistic. It's actually seeing what's already there, because in any circumstance, and most of us are in normal, so-called normal, ordinary circumstances every day. We open our eyes and our minds immediately in the morning go to what's wrong.
What's wrong? Yeah. Or what could go wrong? if it's not already wrong, what could go wrong?
Right. So it's
how
very
we create anxiety.
Brain. Because if you don't, then when it comes time to eat, when it comes time to be in a relationship, there's always going to be a congregation around what's bad, what's wrong, what's damaged, and you're going to make decisions out of that which will not be good for you, which will be out of fear or out of hopelessness or resignation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Instead of out of love, basically. Yeah, I totally agree. So, if there was someone listening who is currently struggling with food addiction or compulsive eating or perpetual dieting, what would be the one message you would like them to take away and carry with them for the rest of their lives?
I would say that, well, if they're struggling with food, to know that their relationship with food is a fabulous doorway into their inner lives, into everything they want. They've already got what they want. If they turn around and become interested rather than rejecting, they'll find what they're looking for. That we do what we do for exquisitely good reasons. And it's just a matter of becoming interested in what they are and affirming those.
Yeah, thank you. That's so profound. That's so, I like that very much. Thank you. And as a matter of fact, I was thinking while you were speaking in my book, A Whole New Life, which is a book focused on change. Okay. So it's not a book on nutrition, but it's a book, on how to create the changes we want, how to face change. And one chapter, when I talk about the tools for transformation, what helps us, to create this transformation is nutrition, is what I call spiritual nutrition, which is, relationship with food, with awareness. Because in fact, as you were saying, it's so important, not just for our relationship with food, but for our being in general, for our state of mind in general. So thank you for having shared that really
Yes, good.
advice.
Yes, thank you for having me on today.
Thank you. So it's been such a pleasure to have you.
Yes, thank you.
And I hope to meet you somewhere, sometime around the world. And if you are inspired by this interview and would like to learn more about how to, about Janine, you can find her at JaneneRoth.com.
Right, and that's spelled with a G. People often don't know how to spell my name.
Okay, so it's G-E-N-E-N.
G-E-N-E-E-N.
E-E-N, right.
Yes.
Roth.
R-O-T-H. Right.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
And if you like this interview and would like to learn more about face challenges in general, make positive changes in your life, click on the link below to order your copy of A Whole New Life. And join my Facebook page, A Whole New Life group, if you want to watch the whole series at any time. And thank you for listening and watching, and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye, Janine, and thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.